The teaching that we're not in the kingdom because the kingdom is in the future reality that happens after the rapture and tribulation and the defeat of Satan and everything else. So the kingdom is synonymous with that 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ. And this is what people were taught in that last dispensation. So if we back it up to Daniel chapter 2, you'll understand a couple things. One, why people were looking for the Messiah in that time that Jesus showed up. And you'll understand, two, why teaching on the kingdom gets so confusing when we're in this present day church life and history, in this moment in church history. So the background to Daniel chapter 2 is that somewhere around 500 BC, Israel has been taken over by Babylon. The king of Babylon is Nebuchadnezzar. He had a dream. He asked all of his sorcerers and magicians to interpret his dream, and they couldn't. So Daniel, who was an exile from Israel, he was able to interpret the dream. This is the interaction between Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 2, 31 through 45. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold. Its chest was silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs of iron. Its feet were partly of iron and partly of baked clay. And while you were watching, a rock was cut out, a physical rock, but cut out not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold, they were all broken to pieces and became like chaff that on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your majesty, you are the King of Kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. And after you, another kingdom will arise inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united, and any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time, verse 44, in the time of those kings, the God of heaven, in the time of those kings he just mentioned, of those toes and the feet and the iron and the clay, in the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. Nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms, and it will bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. And so if we look at this prophetic dream with a straightforward view of Scripture that says this, we don't have to go hunting throughout all of history and time to often find fulfillment of prophetic things that are spoken of in the Old Testament. And when prophecies are given, you don't have to go looking around. We just go, oh, it says that there's going to be a king who's Nebuchadnezzar, the next kingdom and the next kingdom and the next kingdom and the next kingdom. And during that kingdom, there will be a new kingdom that comes, and it will not be shaken, it will not be removed, and it will remain forever. So if we look at that, if we look at Scripture and believe that a straightforward reading of Scripture allows us to interpret, especially when we're dealing with prophetic sections of Scripture, let's look at that historically. So you have the head in gold is Babylon, that is Nebuchadnezzar. Then you have the armies in the nation that came and defeated them were the Persians, that would be the chest and the arms. And then came and defeated them were the Greeks, that would be, and then who defeated the Greeks were the Romans. And then you have this clay and iron of the feet. And then you have this rock that comes and smashes it. So if you follow it sequentially, we don't have to jump any gaps in history to follow that along from Nebuchadnezzar all the way to the Romans. And where was Jesus Or who was over the Israelites when Jesus showed up? It was the Romans. If people are reading this historically, they're going to go, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. The Messiah should show up right here, right now. That's why there was a heightened sense and awareness of a Messiah coming and of this taking place. That's why there was a heightened sense in the Pharisees and in the Sadducees and the religious ruling class to be on the lookout, to really be able to affirm and test. There will be people claiming to be Messiah. We need to be able to test it because we're in charge of everything. Oh, I love it when I write things into my notes that say, like, you can skip this section if needed. It's like I knew. Thank you. Thank you, past Ryan, for helping present Ryan. So what about you guys are like, but what did you skip? Well, I'm not going to tell you. It was mostly ranting and angry, and it's no fun. All right. Well, okay. So what about the feet and the toes that are representing this divided kingdom? Let's dive into that just for a second. The Roman Empire became known as what is known as the divided Roman Empire towards the end of that time. Kings under the emperor. So this was done under Caesar Augustus, who reigned from 27 BC until 14 AD. Okay, got your time frame there? Caesar Augustus, he created 10 provinces in Rome. Rome got so large that they couldn't be ruled. And so he broke them into 10 provinces, and he set 10 rulers over each of those 10 provinces, with a head over them, and those 10 provinces became known as the divided Roman Empire. This helped bring peace to the areas because it was a mixed people. It was different cultures and different tribes, and they had expanded to the degree that they needed to set up different rulers over each of those sections of their empire. And so this allowed the peace to remain, and it eased some of the tension and some of the rebellions. And in Daniel 2:44, it says, in the time of those kings, if we're looking back at that prophetic picture from the statue, in the time of those kings, the feet, this period, the divided Roman Empire, he sets up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. What happened during Augustus's reign? Jesus was born. Who is the rock that was not cut out by human hands? I love that picture of it being both natural and supernatural. This is the divinity. This is the incarnation. This is the story that we're beginning to see in the prophetic pictures of the Old Testament that are pointing directly towards Jesus as you follow a timeline that says these folks to these folks to these folks to these folks to a divided Roman Empire. The feet are that divided Roman Empire. During that time, a rock will be cut out that is not cut by human hands, and it will smash all of these, and it will become a kingdom that fills the entire earth. For dispensationalism to work, for some of our future views of eschatology to work, you have to literally grab those feet. You have to be like sequence, 2,500 years in the future. That's going to happen after the Roman Empire is restored. After, which is probably going to happen when all of our money becomes one type of money and a new world order is built. And that's why I'm reading the Blood Moon books and the Harbinger books and the Left Behind series, because I like to just give my money away to fantasy. Just kidding. I'm just saying, those books are fascinating, but for them to work, you have to take this prophetic picture that is sequential, and you have to take the feet and you have to throw it into 2000 and whatever year. I mean, some of you are like probably about 2025 the way things are going right now. Yeah, it's the end. Come, Jesus, come and smite my enemies. And anyway, okay, so for those things to work, I'm sorry, I told you, I was like, oh gosh, I'm the worst. You're like, yeah, you said about dispensationalism that I'm not here to undercut it, and then you're making fun of it, and you're a jerk. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. Could be true. Could be true. As long as we are okay, you know what? You can believe in dispensationalism. You can believe those feet got cast 2,000 years into the future. As long as we can agree on this, that Jesus taught us that the kingdom is present and the kingdom is now, and that affects the way that we live our lives right here and right now.